Okay, so we are looking at having access to materials on our ATU database. As well. If you need books for edit, you go to electronic books here. But category talks about thesis. Okay, in Accra Technical. So let's go to our categories in the library and check on. Okay, so this is AIT library. Our e-resource. So let's run the library definition of behaviors and practices in Ghanaian markets. So in EU database, we don't have anything like that over there, right? But if we are set for some entrepreneurship, a keyword like entrepreneurship, search for it. So it's also a search like Google Scholar, okay? And as many search engines you have, the more your chances are. So you see entrepreneurship, find of books on the page. Surely search for research papers within our search engine and database, okay, for HU and the external databases. Okay, fine. So I'll wrap up on that part and we'll quickly go back to our slide to conclude on this class. In writing your problem statement, you should have done some reading. Don't just come up with a problem statement like factors that influence accidents in Greater Accra. When you do that, such a study has already been done. Okay, so you first need to go and search previous research and find out whether that topic has been done or not. And you can only do that by going to those research databases, okay, and search engines, okay, to identify studies related to your subject of concern. Once you have done all that and you realize that none of the studies has done what you want to do, then you can come out and say that there are few research or they have failed to examine this aspect of the research, okay? That becomes a gap in studies. And if you do it, that alone is a novelty or a contribution toward what? Research, which you can easily publish, okay, after your studies. Now, moving on to the conclusion, we've looked at the problem statement, which is the main issue when it comes to writing up your chapter 1. Okay, these are some criteria which you need to look at. We said research problems should be novel. There should be clarity, no ambiguity, okay, in the write-up. There should be evidences of what you are talking about. And there should be evidence you can test it empirically. Then the relationship among the variables should be expressed. And the question itself, the research problem should be important. It should be relevant. Okay, good. Now, objective of study, which you also need to know how to construct. Very, very important. I hope you are all with me on this subject because this is a very major aspect. So those who have locked off with the excuses, please join on to those who are on because I need to clarify this part. Now, in the setting up of objectives, objectives should always be in the verb form and your variables which you are examining. So, for example, to determine what? Now, this one says the extent to which this influences that. So the extent to which attitude, which is your independent, influences your dependent. Okay. The next one, to investigate the extent to which subjective norms. So once again, we are investigating X on Y. To assess, we are doing an assessment. Assessment is a measurement, grade, evaluating somebody. So we are going to assess the various home-based involvement on academic performance. And then finally, to investigate the impact, okay? So impact is an X on Y. So you should always have the verb. You should have your, variables, that the dependent, the independent, and if there are mediation variables, it should reflect in the objectives which you set. Please take note. And here I'm very interested. I hope everybody is listening. Hello, class. Regina, is everybody with you?
Yes, please say.
I'm very interested in this area. Okay, so every objective should be clearly stated with the verb, your independent, and your dependent variable. These are specific objectives. Okay, good. Now, the next thing you should avoid in writing any research objective is to write a research objective like to advise. You see, to advise means you are being a consultant. Nobody hired you as a consultant. You are a researcher. A researcher is to just investigate things. You are investigating the relationship between things, okay, and put out your findings. You are not an advisor. You can make some recommendation, but recommendation is not advice. So you cannot have an objective like to advise something, or to suggest something. So you are not suggesting anything to anybody. It's not an objective. Okay. And don't also repeat your topic as what? The objective. So, for example, in this man's research where he looks at instructional leadership and performance, then you bring an objective, specific objective. What is the impact of instructional leadership on performance? When you do that, that is your whole topic. And if you bring your whole topic as a specific objective, then you have finished the topic. So there is no other objective to ask again. So you always watch out for that. Students keep repeating those mistakes. Don't bring your topic as a specific objective. The specific objective are to break your topic into workable forms so that you answer them one by one. And then by the time you finish, you have answered your topic. Okay, good. Now, another thing which students get wrong is they think that research questions are the questions on the questionnaire. Okay, research questions are not the questions you are going to ask your respondents. No, they are rather to operationalize your research objectives. So it must also have your variables being studied. So I have an example here. Research objective 1 from the previous, okay, this is the first objective. To determine the extent to which attitudes and beliefs of parents, so that is the independent variable. This is, sorry, let me just, so this is your independent variable. And we are talking about influence on what? Parental involvement, which is your dependent variable. Now look at how the research question has been posed. What is the effect of what? Attitudes and beliefs, so that is IV, on what? On PI. So in other words, if I answer this question, then I have addressed the objective. So we say a research question is formulated out of a research objective to operationalize the objective, or in other words, to answer the research what? Objective. You understand? So it's not the same thing as your question. So let me touch on that too, because I have a write-up on that. Now, for that same study, this is an example of a research questionnaire. The questions that go on the questionnaire are different from the research question. A research question is one-to-one with what? Your research objective. But the questions can be numerous in your questionnaire. You understand? And you rate them on rating scales. Okay? So research questions are not the same as the questions on your questionnaire. Please take note and don't repeat those mistakes. Okay? Good. We'll come to questionnaire design in methodology chapter. Okay, but for today, okay, this is the model of the study. So you can see that in this study, even though the first objective was to look at this, which is attitude of parents and performance, and there were a number of questions that were asked. These are the research questions that were asked to measure the attitude. Okay, so your attitude, your research question was based on this and that. So take note of it. Good. Now let me clear the screen. If you have any questions, you can ask. Then we wrap up today's class. Any questions so far? Any questions,
Yes,
class?
please, any questions? Sir, please, everybody says, yeah, okay.
You're okay. Very good. So,
yes, please, sir.
Since you are okay, you are also going to provide your write-up, okay, from today's class. So for your various topics that you gave to me, those of you whose topics have already been